Welcome to Psyche Magic, a podcast about self-discovery and the subconscious, where we explore the symbolic language of dreams, tarot, and archetypes. I'm your host, Jordan Hale. I'm a psychotherapist based in Nashville, Tennessee. Each episode, I'll hold a casual conversation with various artists and healers about their shadow work practices. We pull tarot cards, unpack a significant dream or dream theme, and discuss their personal healing arts practices. So please grab a cup of something delicious and stay a while. While aspects of this podcast may feel therapeutic, it is never meant to take the place of therapy. Welcome back to Psyche Magic and a Happy New Year. 2024 has a nice ring to it, don't you think? I hope your holiday season has been connective and restorative. We will be bringing you even more Psyche Magic this year, transitioning our Saturday Salon events to a virtual community where we can interact on our own time, sharing dream work tips and tricks, magical tidbits, tarot education and resources, and creative projects and inspiration with each other anytime, from anywhere. I'm so looking forward to this new chapter. Stay tuned for more updates. You can also now book one-to-one intuitive coaching and tarot sessions with yours truly, where you can bring questions for intuitive guidance, dream work conundrums, shadow work exercises, and anything else you may be seeking advice on. I'm offering special year-ahead tarot spreads and intuitive readings just for the month of January. So check out the coaching tab on our website, psychemagicpodcast.com, for all the info. We are kicking off the new year with an extra special guest, my dear friend and incredible Australian singer-songwriter, Angie McMahon. This conversation will highlight the magnum opus that is Angie's new record, Light, Dark, Light Again. Angie performs, writes, and co-produces all the songs on this outstanding album. And as you'll hear in our interview, her deeply intuitive creative process is very Psyche Magic indeed. Here are a few lines from her biography highlighting some of the intention and inspiration behind the album. Quote, "Forced by a bout of illness to slow down and tune in, McMahon would watch the birds every day, noticing the cycles of nature that she hadn't stopped to see before. As they morphed and swelled, left and returned, the birds began to reflect the things she'd been learning about life, that everything can and will change. And the only constant is reinvention, rebirth, reconfiguration." Across its 13 tracks, Light, Dark, Light Again radiates the journey through uncharted waters McMahon went on during the past few years, and the small but powerful ways she learned to come back to herself and tune into her body when her mind was paralyzed. Movement, meditation, breath work, and immersing herself in nature. This album documents Angie learning that everything will be okay because everything is meant to change, and everything is meant to die, and there is meant to be darkness along with the light. Pain is inevitable, happiness will always return, and you can trust that the ebbs and flows of life will balance themselves out in time. The wave will crash, break, and recede. The birds will leave, return, and reform. Unquote. Although we don't see each other often, given that we live across the world and in different hemispheres, Angie and I connected over our mutual love for synchronicity and deep soul-searching conversations after meeting in Nashville via mutual friends. The bond has endured, and I've gotten to see her absolutely explode as an artist. She continually blows me away with her powerful stage presence and ever-expanding catalog of songs that both rock and haunt the listener with their depth and power. As a somatic therapist, I have found my way into a form of healing that involves our bodies as much as our minds. As Peter Levine's seminal work outlines, the animal kingdom processes trauma simply by shaking their bodies in the wake of an overwhelming experience. Angie has found her own way into this process, where her songs, her dancing, and the reverberation of her voice become a literal healing balm, both for her and everyone who experiences them. Her hard-won wisdom reflected in this album reminds me of what Carl Jung would have called the transcendent function of the subconscious, namely, this idea that we don't ever truly solve our problems. Through our healing journeys, we simply grow and evolve to the point where they don't affect us in the same way anymore. We're on to something else, the next task. To quote Jung, quote, "We have to act, that is, respond to the demands of the unconscious by tending to our dreams, doing active imagination, reflecting on the synchronicities we notice in daily life, and working with any fantasies that arise. Because the unconscious generally acts in a compensatory way to our conscious orientation, these products of our inner life often clash with the ego mind. The result is that we experience the tension of opposites. And to encourage the development of the transcendent function, we need to hold this tension. Holding the tension of opposites is not pleasant or easy, so we suffer." Unquote. The journey of the Fool in tarot is all about breaking free from the mental and physical confines of the illusion of duality, all the while cultivating dialectics, the ability to hold multiple and often seemingly conflicting truths at once. The result is a deep peace that comes with trusting in the cyclical nature of all things, the light, dark, light again. With that, let's get into my delightful conversation with the one and only Angie McMahon. May it heal and inspire you as it did me.
The surfaces, I've been learning about wasting time and closing some doors, hoping to open more down the line.
Angie McMahon, at last! Welcome to Psyche Magic.
Thank you. Hello. Thanks for having me. Love you.
It's been a long time coming, and I'm so glad that you're here, Angie. I'm really looking forward to this today. It's going to be fun.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
We have so much to discuss because Angie and I are both seekers, and we like to dig into the subconscious and the mysteries. So we have plenty to discuss today. So let's dive in. Angie, I am going to have you do just a quick intro, just letting the audience know a little bit about you and who you are and what you do. So feel free.
Okay, yeah, my name is Angie. I am a singer-songwriter, musician. I live in Australia in a city called Melbourne, or Naarm is the traditional Indigenous name of this city. And that's where I am right now. And I don't know what else to tell you. I write songs, and I recently put out my second record, and which brings me to the world of podcasts and talking about myself, usually. I know, yikes. Quite uncomfortable. But today, a good day because you're my friend, right. And I am so happy to be bringing myself to this space.
Oh,
so, yeah.
I love that. That's right, my sweet friend. We're just going to have a fun conversation like we would anyway. And if people are interested, they can listen to it.
Yeah, I love that for us.
I love that for us, honestly.
The recording is just a bonus. This is just us
Exactly. That's how I see it. And I mean, funnily enough, pretty much every time I see you, we read tarot. So we might as well just start there because that's what we do.
For real. I know. I love the way you read tarot. I think you have shown me a deeper way to read the cards and to get visual with them. And yeah, I mean, maybe when we met, I had only just started, and I probably didn't have my own deck, and then eventually I bought one, and I remember like thinking of you as I engaged with it, which is nice. And I do it. I do it quite often now. I've gone through periods of doing it really regularly, and then now I just kind of do it on and off. But I did pull one this morning, but I'm actually really excited to pull one with you as well.
Okay, first of all, that warms my heart, Angie, that I feel like I could add to your tarot journey and help like set you on the path. That makes me so happy.
The day with us sitting on the couch with Alyssa and like pulling and like with the tarot book. Oh my God, what a beautiful memory.
When I need to conjure up a good, like warm, fuzzy moment in my life, like literally that's one of them.
Me too.
Like literally.
Oh my God.
I love you.
Blessed day. That's so nice.
Oh my God. But I'm like you. I go through phases with tarot where I'll be very, I don't know, for some reason, I'll want to pull cards like daily for a certain stretch of time, and they'll really be speaking to me, and I'll just be very like locked in. And then I'll go through a phase where it's just sporadic every once in a while, and it doesn't pull me as much, but I kind of move in and out of it. But I always like to pull a card on the show because I think it's just such a great way to illustrate the power and the freedom of symbol and the sort of ever-changing fluid nature of just how much you can draw from any one card at any given time with any given person. So, let's do it. I have my Rider-Waite-Smith deck. I mean, it's just the classic, so that's what we use. People are familiar with it. So I already pre-shuffled, and honestly, I started pre-shuffling, like holding my guest, their energy in mind. I started doing that on the show because otherwise I would get too nervous and I would start shuffling and I'd be like, hurry, no, you're taking too long. And then I feel like I wouldn't tune in. So I took my time and I pre-shuffled, and I feel like I got the card that was calling to me. So let's see what I got.
Okay, amazing. That's exciting.
Okay. Ooh. Okay, we got a major arcana card, Angie.
Love it.
I'll tell the listeners about it in case they're not familiar. But okay, so this is the Hierophant, Hierophant. Not sure how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I was about to say it out loud, and then I was like, I don't know how to say that.
Card 5 in the Major Arcana series. And so there is this very regal-looking person sitting on a throne. And he has this big, like, majestic gold headpiece on and this robe. It's very much like sort of Pope, like papal energy. He's holding the papal cross, and he's between these two very ornate columns. There are two presumably sort of religious, they have this sort of like monk style, like haircut men kind of bowing down at his feet. And there's some crossed keys at the base of the sort of throne or altar where he's sitting. So yes, very powerful imagery. So I like to get just a quick take, Angie. So like when you look at that card, what comes up for you? What's like the first thing that you kind of feel or notice?
Yeah, well, I think on top of what you're describing, like the power and the kind of grandeur of it, it feels very balanced. I mean, it's just like this figure is in between two pillars, and there's two, like you say, people either side at the bottom. Like it's a very physically balanced feeling.
Exactly.
That card.
Yeah, the sort of composition of the card itself.
Yeah, it's evenly weighted.
Yes, you're so right, which is not the case for a lot of the imagery.
I love when they're balanced.
Yeah, me too. There's something very kind of grounded about it. Yes. Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, it's a very balanced card. The thing that I am sort of drawn to with this card is that there is a lot of sort of like religious imagery. But what I know about this card is I know that the definition of Hierophant in the sort of ancient Greek terminology is that this was someone who was tasked with deciphering secrets and esotericism. So maybe outside of the boundaries of what would have traditionally been widely available religious text or knowledge, these are the secret holders. And that's what the sort of crossed keys at the bottom, what that symbol can indicate is the blend of both subconscious and conscious wisdom.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
You're speaking to my heart.
Right?
That's so special.
Very appropriate. Very appropriate.
Wow. Yeah, I love
that too, like holding both with sort of equal reverence.
Yeah, I feel like that's like my mission. It's like try and use those keys and hold it all. And it's funny, like even as I was just went on a walk before we did this, and I was like thinking how I'm excited to talk to you, but I was also a bit nervous because I don't feel that balanced right now. Like that was kind of the word that I was thinking of in my head. I was like, oh, there are times when I actually feel really in touch with like my conscious and my subconscious and like aware of what's happening in my psyche. And then at the moment I feel like quite flooded, and I was just like, oh, it'd be nice to feel like some balance going into this conversation, but I don't. I'm just like where I am. But then like we get given the balance in the car. See? I'm like, oh, of course the universe just gives
That's
it to
right,
me.
Angie. Exactly. In the Major Arcana series, however you are, and
that's the lesson that I keep learning.
It is for me too. Yeah. I'm with you. I have days where I certainly feel much more grounded in like myself and what's going on in my subconscious. But there are also days where I feel scattered, and it's all okay.
Yeah, it is.
It's all okay. Yeah, the other thing I'll say about this card is that there's something about just the like the phrase that comes to my mind when I look at this card is like that old kind of adage of like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, like that kind of vibe. Because to me, this is very much about like finding a teacher or a guide along our path, especially for those times where we are feeling unbalanced. Like I need someone to like see me in this and show me that balance is possible. Like I need to be able to see that.
Yeah, please reveal the secrets. That's so nice. You can be my guide today, please.
Well, I was going to say, we might end up like switching off, honestly.
Yeah, I'm definitely into that as well. When you pull tarot, do you open like the little book and do you read what it tells you, or do you just go off the visual?
These days, I don't. These days, I just like free associate.
You probably have access to all of them in your brain already. Like, I know what this means.
Well, here's the thing. I've looked these cards up so many times in my life that I've ended up making my own kind of amalgamation of all these different things that I've read, but also intuited. Like I always like to ask my guests what they're noticing, because I feel like whatever's coming up for them is just as valid as whatever the like guidebook would say about the card.
Yeah, I love that a lot.
Especially like in this moment. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of have my own little Hierophant like bank of knowledge in there, but that card affects me differently at different times and based on who I'm with. So yeah, I'm going to hold him here. Like he's going to just like sit with us while we chat in case he whispers little secrets to us. Please do.
Please do.
You're welcome to.
I'm excited for your tarot card your deck that you'll inevitably make one day.
Oh my God, Angie. No, that is like legitimately one of my dreams. That would be so amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I can feel that.
You feel it? That like makes me so happy. Oh my God. You're like intuiting it right now. Yes. That means it's going to come true. Yes.
Shared manifestation.
Yeah. That would be so sick. Okay. Now, taking our Hierophant wisdom, we're going to move into the realm of dreams. Before we get into the amazing dream that you submitted, which I think is beautiful, can you just tell us? I think it's so funny. Perfect. Like it's just, it's great.
It's classic.
Can you tell us, are you a dream journaler? Are you someone who tracks your dreams regularly? Like tell us about your dream practice if you have one.
No, not regularly. I do write them down when I feel like they've sent me like a strong feeling. You know, sometimes you wake up from a dream and it's like very much in your body and like and you can't forget it. I feel like, because so often they just feel slippery and like they run away from you. And occasionally, like, I do try and keep track of those. And I was trying to do it in the last couple of weeks because I knew I was going to talk to you about dreams. And I was sort of like, you know, I'll wake up and like try and write it down. But then I have gone back to look at them and be like, I cannot.
Yeah, you're like, I got nothing.
I have no idea what that dream was. It's just absolute nonsense. Yeah. Like I find it really hard to grasp the language to describe the dream and like write it fluidly enough that I'm like, you're in flow and you're trying to let the image come out on the paper, and then you look down and like nothing that's on the paper is actually 100% language. Like I find that really difficult. But then yeah, I do like the dream that I sent you, which was actually like from ages ago, and like these occasional dreams that are really strong, they do stay with me. And also I think one of my favorite things is like forgetting a dream, but then remembering it during the day when someone says something like, oh, blah, 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 this thing. And you're like, wait, I literally dreamt about that last night. And then your whole dream comes flooding back. And then I'll be like, oh, the synchronicities. Oh, I can tell the future. Oh, wow, this is an amazing moment. Yes. And then I'll write it down, you know, and just like have my little like magic moment.
It's the best. You get to experience that like connectedness.
Yeah, which I love and I get excited by, but I'm not very regular with it. It's just
well, like you said, when it strikes you, when there's this sort of somatic chord that gets struck by the dream. Yeah, absolutely. Because not all dreams are meant to do that. Not all dreams are created that way.
Yeah, exactly.
You hinted to this in your submission that you gave, so we can always talk about it more, but you hinted to even this idea that like the sort of impishness of the subconscious, like maybe we aren't supposed to be conscious of all of it, right? Like we can't peek behind the curtain too far.
Yeah. Oh my God. What I was trying to tell you was like, literally I think it was last night. Like I must have woken up in the middle of the night, or, you know, you're like drifting up to sleep and then you wake up again. And I felt like I had touched on something that reoccurs in my dreams. Like I felt like I had reached this like series, and I had this brief moment of being like, oh, I'm back at my like series, like I'm here for the next episode. And it was being run by these little like monkey elves who live in my brain, who I have met before. I don't even know how to explain that without sounding
Angie,
insane. But there are these little like
this is amazing
monkeys.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I've never spoken to anyone about this before, but I'm so keen to hear if you have these little creatures. But they're almost like the dream production crew. And then they look up in shock and they're like, oh my God, she's here. She sees us. She knows that this is a recurring thing. And like, we have to run away now into a different realm and recreate the mystery. And they don't want me to see behind the curtain. And so they quickly gather up everything to do with the dream, and I'm just left in the void. And then I watch them run away, and I'm just like, oh, I guess I'll meet you again in a different dream. But I wasn't meant to know. Yeah, it's like breaking the fourth wall, and then they're just like, and then they run away.
Okay, now what I can say about this is that I have experienced this phenomenon in the sense of getting lucid in a dream, like where I start to realize that I'm dreaming, right? Which is part of what was happening for you, it sounds like. And there's something that happens in lucidity where like you can get lucid in a dream, but only to a certain point, and you're only supposed to be aware of certain things. And so I've experienced like getting lucid and like turning into a certain like view of my dream and viewpoint, and that viewpoint like fading away, like fading into the background. And I turn back, like let's say towards my opposite shoulder, towards the other viewpoint of the dream, and it's all there. So it's like you have to stay within a certain like bounds. And I've had dream figures get like a little snarky with me if I'm like asking too many questions. They're like, we're not supposed to tell you that. Like, no.
Oh.
Isn't that crazy?
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I do love that. I love the dialogue. I've had dialogue with them before. It was actually when I took some psychedelic mushrooms, but I was like lying in bed having this like, it was like a therapeutic experience. And then I'm like talking to like the little monkeys in my head, and they're just like, yes, obviously this is the thing. And then you're like, wait, but is this the thing? And they're like, yes. And then you're like, wait, but what about this? And they're like, don't ask me.
Okay, never mind.
And you're just like, oh, okay.
Exactly.
It's like,
they're not like people pleasing you. Yeah. They're like, shut up. You don't need to know that.
No. They're like, yes, obviously. Yes, this. Yes, and. Shut up. Okay.
Oh my God.
Let us go back to our jobs. And then they just keep working.
Wait,
You're like,
yes.
okay,
Wait,
thank you,
also,
bye.
you just reminded me. I feel like I want to hear if listeners have their own like experiences of the imps, of the mind monkeys in the subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
But I feel like I'm remembering now that they actually depict this a little bit in the film Inside Out, if I'm correct. I don't know if you're familiar with that movie, the Pixar movie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the dream. Let's talk about the dream that you do remember. Let's talk about the one that you held on to.
Yeah. And in fairness, I don't remember it all that well. I wrote it down,
Good
which
thing.
I'm glad I wrote it down. But
Slip away.
yeah.
Why don't you give us just a brief little
Yeah.
kind of like synopsis of the dream, and then we'll kind of unpack it and just see where it goes.
Okay, so yeah, this was a while ago, so I wrote it down and I told you about it. But basically, I was with my friends, Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli.
Have you heard of them?
From Lord of the Rings. And which is my friends. And we were preparing to go to war. We were like getting ready to go and fight. And I was just like summoning my courage to like face death, basically. And they were like handing me weapons, and we were like this little team. And I just remember feeling like a lot of admiration. There was a lot of like intense eye contact with them. And I was just like so aware that we were like off, like going off to die, or at least like facing the risk of death. And the dream was, it felt like it was about embracing that. And that's more or less like what I remember. I mean, I love Aragorn, like I love him deeply. And I remember that feeling being in the dream as well, like just this like love for Aragorn particularly. But yeah, it was just such an intense dream. It was one of those ones that I had to write it down when I woke up, and I was going through quite an intense like life experience at the time as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's the dream. Me joining the Lord of the Rings.
The thing oh my God.
Wartime.
Yeah, just casually preparing for battle. Like, it's fine. Yeah, probably gonna die, but like it's cool. No, okay. So the thing that strikes me about this dream, maybe like a place to begin, is that it just has such sort of powerful archetypal very archetypal symbols. Like it's very hero's journey vibes. And even sort of like the admiration that you feel towards these people and their sort of valiance and their bravery, like the parts of you that are wanting to tap into like those attributes, perhaps. Does that resonate?
That resonates like so deeply, because now I'm just remembering this is not related to a dream, but it is related to like the subconscious, I guess. I'm remembering this guided meditation that I did when I think I must have been like 24, 25, and it was specifically called like quarter life crisis, which I'm sure I was experiencing at the time. And it was like, here's a way to move through your quarter life crisis. First of all, write down some people, some figures, some characters that you really admire. And I'm sure Aragorn was one of them, but they could be fictional, non-fictional, whatever, and you list them, and if TV shows, real life, whatever. And so I had all these like people written down, and then the next step was to like, write down what it is about them that you admire, or their qualities and whatever. And then the end of the meditation kind of brings you to the understanding that those are qualities that you already possess. And the things that you admire about those people are actually things that you see reflected in yourself, whether or not they've like evolved to the point that you want, or whether you've had the chance to like, bring them into fruition in your life. They're things that you care about, and they're values that you hold and qualities that you hold. And that was like so affirming for me at the time, because I felt like I had no direction, and I just like did not know what my values even were and like who I was. And I remember like doing that meditation and feeling like, oh, for example, like with Aragorn, I'd be like, oh, I love Aragorn so much because I care about these qualities, or like, I want this quality in my life, and like that gives me some purpose and direction. And so I definitely like that, that those characters, like then, they show up in the dream, and I think they do represent like, parts of yourself, like all of the different, and I know you talk about this in your work a lot, like our parts, our different parts, and all the people at the table. And I think about that a lot. I've thought about it a lot over the last couple of years in my therapy and music and stuff, like honoring all the different parts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and the way that you're describing your experience of this particular dream now is just illustrating something that I have found to be so true over and over again, which is that our dreams take us back to the core of who we are, like sort of the essence or sort of the soul if you will, when conscious life and the conscious world is pulling us in so many different directions, there can be this sort of like true north like feeling that can come up in dreams and just like help us remember maybe.
I love that. I feel that. Yeah, that's so true. Well said.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I feel like it's really hard being a human, and it's really hard to remember what actually matters. But
yeah, totally.
When I hear you talk about these big themes, like, okay, what are we willing to risk everything for, right? Like, what matters that much? What am I willing to conquer? The biggest sort of existential fear I could imagine, right? Which ultimately is death. What am I willing to face that over?
Yeah, and what do I want? Like, what is my heart calling out for? And like, how do those things interact with each other? Yeah, it's so informative for like what you want to practice in your life and how to be honest with yourself, like how to really, oh, there's so much there. There's such a deep source of wisdom, I think, and like faith. Yeah.
Yes. I agree, because when you talk about something like a quarter life crisis, what we're dealing with is existential. What we're dealing with is like, why? What are we doing?
Totally. Yeah. And then it's been this thing that I've taken into my life, like when I get crushes on people. I think I was saying this to you as well before, but like when I get a crush on, and I've had a crush on Aragorn like since I first saw like the first Lord of the Rings movie, and like I do get crushes on these like particular like figures, and I always joke about it because like I just love him so much. But when I get crushes in my life, like in my real life, sometimes that can be quite confusing. It can be so intense, like especially if you're like in a committed relationship, you're just kind of like, what is this? Right. And it's like super normal, right? But you're like, what is this longing?
What is happening? Yeah.
Right. And I have found it, and I don't remember where I found this idea, but I wonder if it was from the same kind of, path of thinking. But it's so helpful to me to think about like this crush and like longing as a direction, as like an arrow, like a literal road sign pointing towards the thing that you want. You're like, oh, you want to know what you care about and what you desire for yourself, and you want to know like what to set your goals in relation to. Like, how about this enormous blazing fire that's within you that's like pointing in this direction? And it might just be that person or the figure that you have the crush on like represents that. And like when it's someone in real life and you're like, I can't actually like physically grab that person or that feeling, it's like, what is that unlocking for you? Like, what do they represent, and what about them do you love, and like how can you bring that into your life? Like that, that person is a symbol for something.
Absolutely.
And I think you're right that the Lord of the Rings characters are quite like, they're very like symbolic and archetypal. Like they're kind of like big, clear symbols. Yeah. So
they have nice I'm like holding up the Hierophant card again, but like they very much have the major arcana energy where there are like so many layers. Yes.
Totally.
I love that about crushes. Yeah. I'm sure that people can relate to that, but it really helps to be able to open it up a little bit, look at it symbolically like that, and understand, how is this pointing me towards something that is essential to me, like something that my body responds to, something that matters deeply. Again, like, who am I?
Yeah, something I want to go towards and that's going to bring me life. Like, it doesn't mean I have to have that person. It doesn't mean I have to leave the person that I have. It's like what else is there? Like if you take the body out of it and like that identity of that person, like what else is there? There's so much, there's so much floating around that, what they're doing and what you're doing. And
I love it so much.
It's like a nice way to face our problems.
Absolutely, to bring curiosity, to be less panicky and judgy and just
curiosity.
Yeah. I know, one of my favorite like therapist words, but honestly, it's so helpful. It's so helpful.
Yeah, it is, because it's like it helps you sit in discomfort, and that's like so important.
Okay, you said it. Yes. Huge challenge.
Not easy to say it. Not easy to do it. I know I say it and then I'm just like, I say it as if I'm good at it. Oh my God.
I
I'm not good at it.
know,
But
right? I have to own that all the time.
awareness.
I'm like, I'm using these words. It does not mean that I have mastered this, okay?
Yeah. I have the dialogue. It's sometimes helpful. It's sometimes limiting.
It is a practice. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, the other sort of like, I don't know, facet of the dream that I think is really interesting is that like we were facing death, right? And you mentioned that this ties into this theme that's a part of your album, which is this sort of like light, dark, light again, like this sort of like life, death, life cycle, like viewing death with a little bit more openness, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you want to say anything about that now. Maybe not.
Well, yeah, the theme out of this dream is like, yeah, I mean, it's something that comes up, the idea of like a death and a rebirth and like going towards that like fear of dying. It's something that I encountered a lot after I had this dream. So this dream is like a couple years ago.
It's like sparked something.
And then, well, yeah, I don't know if it was like, it was maybe just like one of the first times that it had entered like my conscious brain, like this idea, but then it just kept on, you know, it showed up a lot over the next while. I was going through like, you know, like various breakups and like identity shifts and like discoveries and coming out, all this stuff just felt like death after death after death of like my old self. And up until, you know, around about like, you know, the year that I had this dream, like up until that point in my life, like I had felt very resistant to any of those like like diving into those like big ideas of like breaking everything down and like finding something new. And like the gripping, I think, was starting to like loosen, like my action of gripping was starting to loosen around about the time that I had this dream. But then I went so much more into like a couple of years of like just trying to like surrender to the death. And I think it was nice that I had this dream where I guess I had experienced like, you know, this like courage and this bravery and like being part of the Lord of the Rings wartime and like being all armored up and feeling brave enough. It's like I'd experienced that already in my dream. And I think having that kind of feeling, it probably contributes to knowing that you can do it in real life.
I agree.
And I had to act it out a lot. I had, you know, like go through, like my biggest rock bottoms and kind of, I do define that as death because I think you can kind of feel it. Like you can feel it when something dies.
Definitely sheds.
It's like, it's a big transformation and it sucks. It's like it feels awful. And you know, I'd have these like big panic attacks and like this incredible like intensity moving through my body, and those have been some of the most important parts of my life. And it has it's come out in the music. It's like this life death life cycle that is spoken about a lot in Women Who Run with the Wolves, one of my favorite books.
Oh my God, the book changed my life.
So that book I think introduced me to the idea a bit more, and then, you know, Light Dark Light Again is kind of like born from that idea as well. There's a lot of this like you know, rising from the ashes kind of imagery, but which also happens in Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
But yeah, like I think, you know, one thing I remember, I don't even know if this is relevant, but I'm just
One thing
I remember feeling is like, this was a while after this dream happened, but it's that same feeling. I was having this like horrible panic attack one day on the couch. I was like alone in my house. I was really, really emotional, and I'd started to think about emotions as like waves, you know, like a big wave. I would describe this as like a huge tidal wave. This was like a tsunami emotion, and I knew it would pass. I knew I'd be fine, but I didn't know how to get to the other side of it. It wasn't going away. It wasn't, I didn't, I'd stopped drinking. Like I didn't have any kind of like coping
Okay.
thing that I could turn to. And I was just like, God, what do I do with this feeling? And I had started running and dancing a lot at that time in my life. And so I decided to get off the couch and dance. And I did not want to do it. I wanted to like cover my chest with my arms like crossed over, and I was curled up in a fetal position. And I made myself dance, and I like put on like probably a Moona song or something. And I was like, I'm going to dance to a pop song. And I was like in my living room, like forcing myself, like pulling my arms away from my chest and forcing myself to like throw them up in the air. And, like it just would have looked so funny. Like I was like crying, and I was like pathetic, and I'm just like, and I'm just like trying to dance and like put my arms up in the air and get them away from my chest. And this overwhelming feeling, this intensity is like passing through my body. And the overwhelming feeling that I had was, I'm going to die. If I move my hands away from my body right now, if I open myself up, I'm going to die. And it's just like, it's so funny looking back on that, like the way that feels so true. You're just like, oh, this is like a death. And it sounds like ridiculous, but it felt so dramatic at the time, because when your nervous system is so dysregulated, that's what you believe. And then obviously, like we know there's so much beauty in being able to like move through something like that. And you talk about like discomfort and sort of being like, oh, I actually am capable of moving through this feeling. And then I learn something from that. It teaches me something about like, my ability to withstand a panic attack and like dance. But at the time, it really just felt like I was dying and I was going towards death. I was still choosing to like go into this feeling of fear and death and unknown and uncertainty.
Yeah.
And of course the dancing helped and I felt better, but I never forgot that experience, that like particular day. I mean, I had some really bad panic attack days, and that was one of them. And like I think this idea of death is like so much more present in our lives and in our like day to day than we maybe talk about. So like it's like this fear, like you say, of dying. It actually does dictate so much of what we do or what we don't do. And when it came to like writing songs, I was just really working through these ideas and coming to understand them, and then writing my way through them. And another thing that I was learning was like your subconscious is constantly shutting you down and giving you negative feedback and keeping you within your comfort zone. And it's like always feeding you the words that it thinks is going to keep you safe, which so often is like negativity.
Yes,
and
smallness.
And I didn't know that. Yeah. Right. It's like stay in the box.
Safer.
Don't do that. You look stupid. Yeah. You look dumb, you sound dumb, whatever. Like, and without, like, if it doesn't get checked, then it just becomes, bigger and bigger and bigger. And those voices are loud all the time. And I didn't know that. So I was learning that and starting to tune into that. And I was really overwhelmed by it. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking so negatively to myself all the time. Yeah, I was like, wow, she's a bitch. Wow, she actually is really mean to me.
Damn.
Why is she leading? Why is she the queen? And yeah, it was like so overwhelming. I was like really surprised at how negative I was. I was doing this exercise where you're meant to like try and tune into it and write it down as soon as you like hear it. And so you're like washing the dishes, and then you kind of like, wait, what was I just thinking again? Like I was drifting off, come back, what was it? And it's like, oh yeah, it was negative. Oh yeah, it was negative. And it's like every single time, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is happening all the time. And I can't really remember how I got to that idea in my brain, but it felt related to what we were talking about. But it was just like a way to like try and face. Well, yeah, I guess that negativity, like I was learning that negativity is about us being afraid of death. It's about us being afraid of failure and by extension, like, falling and breaking and
literal death.
Yeah, right. And that limits us so much. And I was like, in my conscious world, like, above the surface, I'm like, I'm trying to change. I'm trying to transform my life. I'm trying to move into the next version of myself. I'm trying to evolve. And then under the water, like in the depths, there's just this voice like constantly being like, nope, I don't want to die. Nope. Yeah. Right. And it's like trying to cross that line or trying to bridge that experience is, it feels like death. It feels like dying because your whole brain is just telling you not to go forth, and your conscious mind and like above the water is telling you to like go into the next thing, and you're kind of like, this is so confusing. I can't go towards that thing And it's nice to think about it as like a death that you do have to go towards. You kind of have to kill these old versions of yourself. And I don't think you can kill those voices, but
I don't either, not completely.
No, but I mean, we're not meant to. I think we're maybe meant to be aware of them and like be in conversation with them and practice balancing them out.
Angie, I'm so...
Wow, I just spoke for a really long time.
I am so, first of all, just like moved and just in awe of everything that you're sharing. Your words are so powerful and they're so authentic, and I know that they're going to resonate because they are resonating so deeply with me. So thank you. Mm. The thing that I want to add, because I was writing down a couple of things as you were talking about that process, like coming to understand just how high the stakes are. Like inside of us at any given moment. It's true. Yeah. And I wrote down the phrase tower moments, and this is another tarot term, right? The tower card is like the most feared card in the tarot. It's like the card that gets pulled when something has to end or die, right? Or fall apart, because that's an essential part of the life-death life cycle. Like, you can't really have life without death. You can't. It's a fallacy.
Yeah. And you definitely can't have new life without something being
exactly
lost.
You're not going to evolve, grow, right? So when you were talking about going through these like necessary yet extremely terrifying and painful deaths, it is a hero's journey. Like it does require like Lord of the Rings level bravery. It's hard. Like notorious, right? And yet they are absolutely necessary. And what I've found in my own life, in my own tower moments, losses, like painful, horrible losses, endings, is that what I found is that there's a certain type of strength that only comes out of moving through what the old version of me thought is the worst case scenario that I could never handle, right? Like it's like once that worst case scenario that I could never handle happens and I handle it somehow, all of a sudden I have a new level of strength that I didn't know that I had. And I now apply that to future situations, and my threshold is now different and I have less fear because how could I not?
Yeah, I feel that so much. And you clear away all the bullshit that was surrounding you in the big lead up to that.
I'm protecting myself from the thing I don't think I can handle, right?
Right. Yeah. And it gets so much bigger in your head than it needs to be. And then all of that stuff that felt so big, you suddenly grow and you look at it and you're like, oh, that's not that big. Like those things are not, they're not taking up as much space as I thought they were, or they don't need to. And then inevitably it'll happen again, all over again, like down the line. But you do feel stronger each time, right? And you feel more trust in yourself. Like, I trust that I can get through this.
Yes. Then there are more voices besides just the like terrified, stay small voice. Like,
exactly. Yeah, totally. I was really helped by this little book of Buddhism that I have, which is like a little pocket Pema Chodron book. And she talks about, there's like a page about how we all, I think it's actually the start of the book, we all have this kind of like shining jewel is like the way to think about your heart, like deep inside of you. And no matter what shit is surrounding it, and like all of the murk and all of the dirt and everything that gets piled on top and that we have to like sift our way through, or if all of that falls away, or if it lasts for like 10 years, 15 years, and then eventually like you find your way through it, like the jewel, like that deep goodness that is at the center of us, and like that is where our like love and our capability and our good compassion and our capacity, like they all live in that. It's unchanged. Like it is forever this shining special jewel, and that's at the center of us and at the center of our like experience, and all of the other stuff around it is just stuff. Like it's, and it'll either pass or it'll stay for a really long time, and whatever will happen, but the center is unchanged. And I think I kind of came to believe something was more strong at my center, like what you're describing. Like you go through stuff that helps you like believe in your core more. And I really love that. Like that's a faith system, and I don't think I'm describing it, as well as she does, or as well as people can, but that becomes your foundation to move through the next thing, like this restored faith in like your core and your center, and like something to believe in, which is really important.
Powerful. Angie, one of my favorite things about you, just both as an artist and as a human, is that you are just such a generous sharer of what you're learning. Like at any given moment, you're sharing with your audience, with anyone who's listening, what is meaningful to you and what you're discovering. And it has such powerful ripple effects. Like it is such a superpower. And I just really admire that about you so much.
That's so nice. Thank you. I just feel like I'm rambling nonsense.
You are not.
Just like... Well, I think the thing that I've loved, I mean, I didn't feel confident in saying any of this stuff, when I was actually going through the depths of it and learning it. But what I loved is hearing other people talk about their experience. Like we're talking about a universal, human experience. And there are people who articulate it really beautifully. And sometimes it's in like, religious texts and spiritual things that you might feel you don't want to engage with. But it's actually in so many different types of literature, and it's in podcasts, and
Absolutely.
it's in it's in like the Bible, and it's in Brene Brown, and it's in like Buddhism, and it's everywhere. And I mean there are more places than those that I just listed,
but those are some good ones.
There is this that there's this beauty of hearing other people talk about it that makes it feel more like exciting and like accessible just to be alive. Right. It's like we actually do all have these transition points, and like these really big like waves and things that happen in our life that we can channel into something else, like creatively or spiritually or whatever. And that is nice to be encouraged by hearing other people talk about it. So I feel like I am actually just regurgitating things that I was really happy to absorb, and then I'm kind of like, I hope other people absorb them too. And I even like, before I came to think about some of the stuff we're talking about, which to me is just like understanding the world of nature, even like it's still quite simple.
Absolutely.
But music has always been like a spiritual thing
for
me, and hearing people's stories, and like that's beautiful stuff is everywhere, and it connects us. And
universal.
It is universal. Yeah.
Blah, 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 yes, blah, blah, yes, blah. We love it. We love it all. We love it all. Okay, let's talk about your music, Angie. Let's talk about your process. Let's talk about this beautiful album that has been such a healing balm to me and to so many other people. I was going through some pretty intense stuff this summer, like big losses, and letting go was just my, it was my saving grace. It was my anthem.
No.
So let's talk about this record, how this record came to be. And I would love to hear some of your sort of process, like for making this record. I would love to hear if there are like subconscious practices or influences in how you make music. So any of that you feel like talking about.
Oh, thanks. That's so nice. Thanks for listening to that song. Yeah, letting go definitely had some subconscious, practice come out in it. Like the end of that song, It's Okay, Make Mistakes, was very much a flow state, a kind of subconscious messaging coming through, because I'm like sitting in my room trying to finish the song, just being like, you've spent a fucking year like trying to find out what this song is about. Like I had the chorus, I had it for ages, and then I just didn't have like I liked it so much that I didn't have the courage to finish it, and that is something that I come up against a lot. And it ties into what we're talking about with subconscious negativity. The practice that I was trying to, really bring into my everyday life was just positive affirmations. It was just like, if you're going to be negging yourself all the time under the surface, then you better be saying some nice stuff out loud. And it was, balance it out. Hi-Ree, Fenty. I was in like a super, like in what felt like a really dorky way, I was talking out loud to myself a lot. I was doing these
Good.
like morning meditations with my hand on my chest, kind of being like, it's okay to make mistakes. And so, and I'd also started doing it, you know, riding those big emotional waves. I would just kind of say out loud to myself, it's okay, it's okay. That's still the way that I move through things. And I share that because like I hope that other people who maybe don't have access to that tool find that tool, because I found it really, really helpful. Like that's self-soothing. And a lot of this record was just me like soothing myself, like turning that, like talking out loud to myself, kind of just like taking it to the piano. And I had to make a second record, and I really wanted to, and I was desperately trying to create. And I was also going through, like a big life crisis. And so those two things kind of married into me just trying to speak really nicely to myself as a way of being in the world. And then that became a way of being in music for a while, was just really trying to be comforting. So I guess I landed in that place, you know, somewhere along the line of making this record. And it informed the way that I finished things and some of the songs that came out. So letting go, I was so scared of finishing it that I just started yelling the thing that I needed to hear. And then there's other songs, like that on the record where I did that exact same thing. Like there's a song, I Am Already Enough.
I love that song.
On the record. Thanks. I was just driving along one day, again, tuning into the thing that I could hear in my brain, like probably hating on myself.
Noticing.
And I do this thing in the car where I just start, I sing really loudly, or I'll just like, if I do need to process something, I'll like yell in the car. It's kind of like the one space. I don't even have a car. I like borrow my mom's car sometimes, and it's like my special time where I get to like scream. And I'm convinced that no one can hear me, but I'm not that convinced. I'm like, maybe people can hear me, but they'll
we
never
just
see
pretend.
Me, so that's okay. Right. And a blissful ignorance. And I was yelling like, I am already enough. And I just was trying to like cement that idea in my brain. And then that became an idea for like, kind of like a punky song. I was like, I just want to yell this as a chorus. I don't really care what the rest of the song is like.
I just know I need to do this.
I am enough. Right. And that felt like an important pillar for the kind of music I was wanting to make at the time.
These are the ways that I am healing, and I am sharing that.
Yeah, totally. Because I didn't know what else to share. Like I was like fully inhabiting like both like joy and hope and faith that was like emerging, but also like real confusion and darkness and pain. And I was sort of trying to write some clarity out of that. And what I've done in the past is write in quite a dark way, but that didn't feel very safe to me at this time. Like it sort of felt like that wasn't going to transform the sorrow. That was going to solidify it or something.
I love that, Angie. That makes a lot of sense. Like I have to bring in the sort of yin and the yang here. I have to be able to hold like all of it.
Yeah, totally. And everything was just feeling so, like physical and huge and hard. I didn't think that my brain, like my thoughts and my intellectual, like coping mechanisms were actually gonna help move me through. It's like that thing I was describing to you. I'm like lying on the couch and I'm like, how do I get through this feeling? Like I didn't have the thoughts. I didn't have the capacity. I was experiencing, some kind of trauma, and I didn't know how to move through it. And so I became more physical, like running and dancing and than I ever have been. Like I've never been an athletic person. I can't dance. I could never force myself to run. And I just like, I started doing things in my body. And so this like affirmation practice, it felt more like a body thing.
Sense.
And you can feel this like response and you can feel this shift in your breathing. And whereas I've always been like a head person and a lyric person. I mean, I'm still a lyric person, but I wasn't trying so hard to like write the story or something necessarily, to be like, from beginning to end, this is how I feel about this person and this situation. And now that I've written it in a song, it all has context and narrative and I can like sign off on it. And that's exactly how it went. Like nothing in my life felt that clear. I felt really confused and I felt really overwhelmed all the time. And so most of this record is like a really a different approach that just came from trying to inspire like the hope in me to like keep on rising to the surface.
Angie.
It was a really nice experience.
It makes so much sense to me that this record came out of this more like somatic place where you've done so much work, right? You're such a self-aware person, and yet you reach a stage in your healing where you're like, oh, I have to go into my body now. Like, that's the way forward. And I resonate with that too. And Angie, I wish more people would talk about the experience of like trying to dance through a panic attack. Like, if you know about somatics, you know that that is a way to communicate directly with your subconscious, your somatic system. Because if I'm dancing, I'm not in danger. If I'm dancing, I'm not about to die.
Yeah,
it's a direct line.
And you're like, you're in your house, you're looking around, you're like, I'm safe here, there's no one here, I'm okay. It's just my brain. But I feel so unsafe and so afraid.
That feeling is so real.
It's like, yeah, and it's like you're trying to take back your power, or just like tap into that body connection and kind of remind your body, your brain, like there's some stuff going on up there, but that's not the only truth. That's not the only thing that's happening. You're alive and you're here and you can dance. And I was listening to a lot of pop music at the time. I was like running to like Selena Gomez and like the stuff that I wouldn't normally listen to. And I mean, a little bit of that came out in the songwriting, but I'm still kind of figuring out how to write in that way. But it definitely was like informing, like dance music generally was informing the feeling that I wanted to create in the record. Like, just try not to be in my like sad piano ballad brain and try and embody like energetic movement a little bit more. Yeah.
You can hear it, and you can hear this other sort of piece that you were talking about, which is this beautiful repetition that you'll use in your songs and in your music. And it becomes this sort of, it turns into something else. It turns into almost like a sort of a chanting, and it brings on almost like an altered state, right? It can.
I'm doing a spell.
Yes, Angie. Yes.
Yeah. That's my psyche magic.
That is your psyche magic, and we all feel it. And so we're listening to these songs, and my brain is digesting what you're saying, and then all of a sudden you're repeating it enough times that my body just starts emoting and responding completely differently because of the repetition, because of the way that you are experiencing those moments, the way it comes through. It's healing. It's powerful.
Thanks. Oh, that's so nice.
I love it so much.
Yeah, the repetition is a really important part of it. Someone pointed it out to me a few years ago in my songwriting. They're like, how come you like repeat things so much? Like you say things over and over again. And I was like, I didn't know I did that.
Yeah, you're like oh, it's just what I do.
Yeah, I had never thought about it. And I think about it more now. And I think it is. It's trying to, enter that same state that you enter when you're like meditating 100%. on a chant or you're, just coming to believe something and, like trying to focus on one thing, one idea.
Exactly.
Like, I find
the little totem,
right. When you're really upset and you're trying to say to yourself like, oh, it's all right. But at the same time, all the bad thoughts keep flooding in and all of the chaos. And it's like you're already in the storm and you're like, I can't actually make myself less upset. It's sort of like just trying to really focus in on like this one idea. And it's just like a desperation for clarity and a place to hold yourself while you ride the wave. Yeah.
It's powerful. Yeah, the somatic healing nature, dancing, singing, chanting, yelling, it doesn't matter what it is. It can just open up a completely different level of, what we call like experiential healing, right? It's one thing to know something logically and mentally, and it's another thing to experience safety in my body in this very specific way.
Yeah.
It's just a different ballgame.
Yeah,
music brings us into it.
I never knew that. Yeah, it does. It's like an active practice of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Divine Fault Line is another one of the songs that just like broke me open on this record. It's not unlike what we were talking about earlier with dreams and dream symbols. Your songs like evolve for me. So like as I spend time with this record, like different songs will kind of take center stage at different times in my life. I know they will. But that one specifically, like just really, it just had a really powerful effect on me. Again, based on things I was experiencing in my life. It was tapping into that sort of tower moment feeling that we were talking about earlier of like, okay, this is so hard and this is what's needed. Like, it's going to be okay.
That's so nice. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, that one was a co-write with this beautiful artist, Emma Louise, and it speaks to that universal human experience that we're talking about, because she and I both found that we were just feeling that exact same way, and we'd kind of gone through this big tower moment, I guess, each of us, and we were able to articulate it in a way that we both felt was like, oh, this is exactly the feeling. This is the voice that I want to be loud in my head right now, is the angelic one that's kind of saying, you're going to be okay. Right. Like, this is an important experience. Keep going. That really loving, wise self. And she and I were both just like you as well. We were both just talking about how important it is to die.
Yes.
Like how important that death is, and that loss is. And, sometimes it's a relationship, but sometimes it's a piece of yourself, or both, or whatever. But yeah, it was really nice to write that song. And I had a lot of fun with that. And that was something that came out of like a real dancey, like kind of joyful intention.
Makes
and
sense.
Yeah, I love that one. It wasn't a single, but a lot of people have kind of latched onto
really?
it.
I love that.
Which has been like a really nice little bonus. Yeah.
I know. Anything else you want to tell us, Angie? Like, we love the peek behind the curtain of like how your brain works and how these songs like come into being. Any other little tidbits that you want to share?
Oh, well, I guess something that I've been talking about a bit, which I think is nice to acknowledge, is, when I was trying to make this record, when I was trying to write some of the songs, and I felt like I had more songs in me, but I didn't know how to shape them or how to birth them. And I didn't feel like I could rely on just this like toolbook that I have had so far. It was really nice to just like surrender any pride that I had around that, and any kind of like clinging to, my identity as a songwriter, as an official job, and being like, I should know how to do this, and just like lean on people, collaborate with people, engage with new like resources. Absolutely. And I did this thing called School of Song, which is this really beautiful course run out of LA on Zoom, and they do it like every month or something, or every few weeks they run another School of Song course, and they get a different like songwriter or musician to lead a couple weeks of Zoom classes, and they give you prompts on like how to like what to write your song about that week. And
I'm gonna do this.
It was so, oh my God, it was so great. I think you would love it. It's so good. Yeah, there's a really great like community that they have set up, and you get prompts and encouragement from places that you never would have got it otherwise. It's like $200 or something, and a few friends of mine did it, and I did it. I did the one run by Courtney Marie Andrews, who we love, in Nashville.
Who we love.
Well, maybe she doesn't live in Nashville anymore.
I thought she did, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Yeah,
maybe she does. She's so great. I met her when I was over there, and I was like, I did your course, and you're amazing. Like, but she was incredible at it, and they do a bunch of different versions of it, and it was just such a nice way to approach writing, and that was the birth of like the seeds of some of the songs that ended up on the record, that just came from other people saying like, look at this poem and try and write a song this way, and try and get out of your head this way. And then my friends like Mimi Gilbert, who's American, they were in our, like, we had a little friendship group, which was people who I know who did the School of Song, and then we wanted to keep it going, like, just as friends, and kind of keep on writing songs and prompting each other. So Mimi Gilbert was one, and Ruby Gill and Hannah Cameron, that was my little, like, text thread that we had going, and that was so great, like, to be encouraged to write songs by your friends and just have people to text your ideas to and prompt each other, and each week we'd try and, like, upload our song that we wrote that week, and It was so great. And it was nothing to do with like this kind of idea of being a professional, like isolated songwriter with my own like secret
cranking out the hits
world of it was just like, how do I feel love and joy and keep doing this job? And that was really important, like really healing actually.
Amazing.
And I found so much new like possibility in writing that way, being prompted by other people and just kind of getting out of my comfort zone and getting into like collaboration and stuff. So that was a really important part of this record, collaboration.
Okay. Oh, I love hearing that, Angie.
Yeah. Because it's so much to do with surrender and some of the themes that show up in the songs. Like I'm like singing about surrendering and trying to go towards the unknown. And that's kind of what that looks like in some ways, was working with other people and not knowing. I used to be more afraid of that, but.
You were saying that it was just so, that surrender process like really came through in the record, and that was like kind of a key sort of pillar of like how these songs came.
Yeah, totally. I had to practice what I was singing about.
Absolutely. Yes. Like someone who is really walking through this in real time. They're not going for something. They're not preaching. They're living this experience. And that comes through, Angie. I mean, I can't say it enough. Like, I just fucking love you. I just love your music so, 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 so much. I want everybody to hear it in the whole wide world. Everybody.
Love you, Jordan.
I love you.
I knew we would have so much fun chatting.
Too.
Just, like,
I was like a little nervous too. And then I was like, why are you nervous? You're going to talk to Angie. You love talking to Angie.
Oh my God. Yeah, I love talking to you. I'm so glad I'm here.
I'm so glad you're here too. I want to see you soon, hopefully, before too long. I've already got my eye on some of your tour dates. Angie McMahon is having a tour in 2024, so check that out.
It's true.
I'm eyeing a couple of dates.
Currently. Yeah, I don't know if we can afford to come to Nashville. I'm like, can we go to the South? And they're like, the budget, it is stretched. But yeah, come to
I was eyeing like some of the New York dates, maybe.
Yes, come to New York. I still can't believe we ran into each other in LA that day.
Yeah, Angie and I magically ran into each other in Los Angeles one time, and it was like the most delightful thing that's ever happened.
Oh my God.
It was beautiful.
It was so important because I was like, that day, I mean, that trip, like I was coming back to the States after like, so long not being able to be there and like trying to like feel a sense of community and like gather a friendship feeling. And I was in LA, which is not always the place that feels, easy to do. And then you and Daniel, like not even being LA residents, you're just like walking down the street and I'm just like, there's no way like 2 out of the 4 friends that I have in America are like currently on this street right now.
Cute, Angie.
It was so wild.
It was so wild.
Really cool.
It was one of those like, oh my God, how is the world this small in this moment? Like, this is beautiful. Yeah.
You got to believe in the universe.
Truly. No, the universe was like, remember these guys? You guys love each other. You guys need to like remember that right now.
Yeah. That was so special.
Those magical moments. I know. I cannot wait to come see you on tour and just by then I'll have these songs just like in my body and I just like can't wait to wail them with you while you're on stage. Oh my God. I already can't wait.
I can't wait to see you. Yes. Oh,
I love you.
You can come. That'd be really
I love you.
Nice.
Thank you so much for being on my show, Angie. It is such a tremendous honor. You are the best.
Oh my God, my pleasure. This is so great. I love it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you. That's a wrap for this episode. Thank you again to my guest, Angie McMahon. May your music continue to send ripples of healing throughout the world. Thank you for sharing yourself so graciously with us. If you haven't already, please take a moment now to subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcast app of choice. It really makes a difference and helps other people find the show. We'll see you back here next month with another amazing guest. And in the meantime, we hope you'll join us in the next Saturday Salon, a weekly hour of sacred space to spend on your creative projects, hosted by Jordan via Zoom. Sign up via the events page on our website, psychemagicpodcast.com. If you believe in this work and want to support the continuation of our show, please join us on Patreon. There, we are building a community where you'll find bonus dream work exercises, guided meditations, fun minisodes, and so much more. That's patreon.com/psychemagic. All links are included in show notes. We hope you'll also follow along with our shenanigans on Instagram and TikTok at Psyche Magic Podcast. Psyche Magic was produced and recorded by me, Jordan Hale. Editing for this episode is by Masuzu Inaga. Our theme music is by Young Summer. Artwork is by Annika Murphy. Special thanks go to Daniel Higby, Grace Fuse, and Michael McMillan. Thank you so much for listening. I'll leave you with a question. If you must sleep through a third of your life, are you willing to sleep through your dreams too? Get your dream journals out, y'all. Until next time.